Welcome to Enlightened Omnivore, the monthly podcast that serves up a delicious mix of food, sustainability, and travel. I'm your host, Steve Sabaker, here to explore the wonders of mindful eating. Join me each month as I dig into the stories behind our food system, discover new ways to live sustainably, and embark on culinary adventures around the globe or right in your very own kitchen. Get ready to expand your palate and your mind, one bite at a time. Well, I'm so excited to welcome Belinda Lau to Enlightened Omnivore. Thanks for coming out, Belinda.
Oh my God, Steve, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me and thinking about Elims.
We were just catching up before we started recording, and it's been a little while. Belinda and I used to work together, but we became really good friends, and she's had an amazing journey since then. And I know a little bit about your childhood, Belinda, but I thought maybe you could share your story. I mean, your parents were immigrants. You guys immigrated to Canada from Burma, right?
Yeah, so I was actually born and raised in Vancouver, British Columbia, just outside of Vancouver in a little town called Richmond. My parents are originally, they're Chinese descent, but they were from Burma and now called Myanmar. And before they got married, my dad moved to Vancouver to start a job. And his story was that he started out with like $100. Someone, his parents gave him $100 US. This is back in the late 70s. And then he didn't know anything about the world. So he's in the Thai airport. He's like, someone offered him a beer. He was like, great. And they were like, that's $10. And so by the time he got to Vancouver, he had like $14 in his pocket. And he was like, how am I going to survive? And amazingly, from that $14, he was able to bring my mom from Burma to Vancouver, and they got married there. And then, yeah, that's where me and my brother and my sister were born and raised. And it's interesting because like I've got 3 kids now, and I look at their childhood's so different from mine because we were children of immigrants and we didn't have anything. My parents started a gift shop in downtown Vancouver, and that's where I grew up. So, Christmas break, summer break, spring break, most of my kids are usually at home playing video games. And for me, I was in the shop. Like every weekend, my parents would take us to the shop and we'd work. We'd, all the elements of entrepreneurship, as it's called today, is what I experienced. So everything from marketing, like making sales signs, to operations, inventory management, customer service, all of these things, we grew up with, and we were sort of, forced labor. But, looking back on those days, like it really taught me so many life lessons, not just for entrepreneurship alone, but like how to have business acumen, which is important no matter what business you could be. You're running your own dental practice to working at a corporation, like having that business acumen early on is something is really hard to learn on your own.
Yeah. And did you enjoy it at the time, or was it really forced labor?
It's so funny. All my friends on the weekends would be going to the mall, and I'd be like going to work. So at the time, obviously as I grew older, as a teen girl, I just wanted to do whatever my friends were doing. So I didn't really enjoy it at the time, but honestly, there's so many things that I've learned from that experience, and then just growing up a little faster than my peer group, I can see now that how it's carried me through my life, and honestly, like even difficult times is not so difficult because I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I survived all of these things when I was young. So now when bad things happen, it's not such a huge deal.
Yeah, our kids are pretty soft these days.
My kids are super soft. I was like, you have no idea how good you have it. I feel like such an old lady saying that, but it's true.
Yeah, we start sounding like our parents and our grandparents. Well, and then you've had some big life changes as well in terms of your career. I can relate. I've definitely recreated myself a few times, but you had a successful career in healthcare, and you have an engineering background, right?
Yes, I do.
So tell us where you're at now. It's a little bit different.
Yeah. So, I was in the corporate life for 15 years, and I don't have any regrets. I think I needed to have a lot of those learnings and seeing how a corporation works, what doesn't work. in order to know how to run my own organization. So, when I decided to become an entrepreneur, it was more like, okay, I've done the corporate thing for 15 years. I've got these 3 kids at home. I was going into like my midlife crisis, if you will, and thinking like, is this it? Is this the rest of my life? And I started asking myself all these questions about, what do I want out of my life? If like my father passed away when I was only 24. And so I was like, if this is close to the end of my days, how do I want to spend my time? And, working for a corporation can be very comfortable, but it could also be a different stress. And so I think I just wanted to create something that was my own and be able to see it out in the world and see it as part of it is I just want to see if I could do it. Like I didn't come from anything. So my list of bucket list things was very short, like, go to college, get married, have kids. After that, I was like, well, okay, I've done those things. What else is left? And so the entrepreneurship thing was less about being an entrepreneur. It's more about creating products and creating things that I wanted to have in my own household and be able to see if it would make it on its own. And so that's why my husband is a dentist, and he and I thought, okay, with my background in biomedical engineering and my background understanding how regulations and the FDA works, and his background in dentistry, like, is there something here? So we started with sustainability only because at home, we see all the waste that's created at home, both mainly in the kitchen. When we started composting, I was like, wow, our trash bin is like empty. Most of our trash is food. So, seeing that as an example, and then at home, my kids were using those little floss picks,
Yeah.
and then throwing them out every day. And like, my kids would replace their toothbrushes every few weeks. I don't know what it is with kids and toothbrushes. Like they chew it up like it's like a dog toy. And
Yeah, I don't know what my son does to his toothbrush, but
like,
but they got to get changed out. Mine, I always forget to. So
yeah, exactly. Mine looks perfect for like 6 months, whereas my kids 6 weeks later looks like it's, got chewed up by the dog. So it made me really reflect on like, okay, what's going on in my own life? Are other people experiencing this? And, like a good marketer, I did my market research. I did a ton of surveys out to like the general public. I did some at the time I was also in business school at Anderson. And so I was able to use the resources at the library to pull up a lot of these reports that back in the corporate world you'd pay tens of thousands of dollars for. But these reports, the schools have a license for them. So I was able to do a lot of really good research to figure out what does this market look like? Do people care about sustainability? Where could I make a difference in this little space? And all the signs sort of pointed to yes. And in business school, I had this professor he was the professor of entrepreneurship, and he's famously known as the dream killer because whatever ideas you have, you bring to him, and he was like, "Don't waste your time." Like that's terrible.
that's my pet name for my wife, the Dream Squasher.
But
It's good. It's a good thing. It's a good
you
thing.
don't want to waste your time and your money. And I brought this professor. I brought him 2 ideas, and the first one he was like, "Yeah, don't waste your time or your money." And I was like, "Okay." And then the second idea about more sustainable oral care, he was like, he just said, "Give it a try." He said, "Don't put more than like $1,000 into it. Put a little bit of your money into it. Figure out, does anyone care?" And that's what we did. And we found out people did care. And so that's where it sort of like started from. And then, looking back in my corporate life, I was just impatient, with how slow things go. Like when you have ideas in corporate life, even if they're good ideas, somehow they get mangled up when you bring it up. Even if people execute it, it just never is what you thought it would be, at the end of the project. Usually the project takes months and sometimes years. So I just got really impatient, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to give myself, I time bound it. I said, I'm going to give myself 18 months on this idea. My husband was on board, and we said, at the end of 18 months, we're going to sit down and we're going to decide, are we going to keep doing this, or are we going to stop? And I go back to getting, a proper day job, quote unquote. And after 18 months, things were going pretty well. And we had gotten to a couple business accelerators. We had some traction on our idea. We had some good advisors. And so we said, okay, let's just keep going to see how far we can get. And, that was back in 2021. And, here we are, almost 5 years later, and we're still here. So, there's something to be said about a startup still surviving past pandemic, past, a troubled financial landscape and still be here. So, we're still here.
Absolutely. That's a huge accomplishment. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the company, since we've been kind of beating around the bush here about how that came about. But what is Elims and what kind of products do you guys make?
Yeah. So first of all, Elims is the word smile backwards because it's all about the smile that you see in the mirror. We believe that if you feel good about your health, how you feel in your body, in your container, and you feel good about what you're doing in the world, you really love what you see in the mirror. Like you just really love your smile. So
I love that.
that's sort of the ethos behind our products and what we do. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to combine both like clinically backed oral care and sustainability and a bit of modernization because we want really people to love the experience of brushing your teeth. Like essentially everyone on the planet has to brush their teeth. So it's something that you have to do every day, twice a day, hopefully, and hopefully more. And so can we elevate that experience? Can we make that better? Can we make it cleaner? So if you look at these traditional or conventional products in the oral care aisle at your local CVS, if you take the package and you flip it over, chances are you won't be able to pronounce most of those ingredients, which is problematic. And so we said, okay, can we make these products that are out there, can we make them a little bit cleaner? Can we still make sure that they're clinically valid? So that's where we started from. And then from there, making it more sustainable, can we make the tubes for toothpaste something that starts maybe a bit more sustainable or closing the loop on that, being able to recycle it? Same thing with the toothbrush. Is there a way that we can use more sustainable materials or somehow be able to close the loop on reusing these things eventually so we turn it into a backpack or a playground somewhere at the end of the day? And so the answer to those things have been yes. And interestingly, when we started out, with the idea in 2019, a lot of the technology we use today didn't even exist. So like the technology and sustainability, both in sustainability and oral care, has been progressing pretty quickly, I would say. And we see new technologies these days. Like we just started prototyping a Sonicare toothbrush head that's completely made out of cornstarch so that
Wow.
it works just as well as a Sonicare toothbrush head. However, it's completely made of like a plant-based material because on top of using plastic, people don't want to be putting microplastics or plastics in their mouth. So, that technology didn't exist 5 or 6 years ago. And so seeing that kind of come about today and us being able to use it in an economical way and in an efficacious way has been very exciting to see.
For sure. When people think sustainability, I think they think about solar panels or electric cars
Yeah.
or even maybe composting, like you mentioned, not floss picks or toothpaste or
Yeah.
toothbrush heads. Why do you think that everyday products we use get overlooked in that conversation?
I think because honestly, like sustainability it can be very overwhelming, right? And so people think that climate change and maintaining our environment is a big problem and it requires like big solutions, which it does. But on the other side of things, I think it's overwhelming because we feel like we don't know what to do. Like we don't have control over the situation. And so seeing there's many things out there that I can see where people are switching over just in a small way. I think we saw this during the pandemic too, where like just one person doing one thing actually leads to a broader effect of goodness, right? And so just even one toothbrush or even simple things like replacing your Ziploc bags with like compostable Ziploc bags for your kids' snacks. Those little things I truly believe they add up eventually. And so putting in the time, the effort today, and it also makes us feel like less overwhelmed by the impact of things. So if we know that yes, we've got one toothbrush or we've got this one garbage bag that's that's compostable rather than made of plastic, like those little things, we feel like we can actually do something about this bigger problem. And so I think it can be overlooked. And I think everyone thinks they need to go chase an electric car in order to feel like they're doing good in the world. But I truly believe that just doing a little bit of everything, both at home and in the bigger world, makes a difference.
Were there any surprises when you started looking around closely at how like waste in the bathroom piles up? Like, are there surprises in dental care that we don't know about in terms of the waste?
Yeah, I would say just because you have to brush your teeth in the morning and then evening and then floss that you're throwing away, it certainly adds up. There's a statistic that like over 1 billion toothbrushes are thrown away in the US every year.
Wow.
And they're mixed plastics, right? And everyone's used them. I've used them in the past. And so when you throw those things away, they go straight into landfill. They're not able to be recycled. And so even starting with a simple thing like a toothbrush, even though it doesn't seem like a lot of plastic, it just certainly does add up if you look at the entire population of the United States and also just of the world. So, if we can make a small dent in that and just push the industry forward for the entire oral care industry to look at the products that they're producing on a daily basis and see if there's ways that we can actually close the loop on the recyclability or using more renewable resources. That's a start. It's not going to solve climate change but it is a way for people in their homes and their daily lives from their bathroom to their kitchen to be able to make progress.
Is it hard to manufacture those things? I mean, you're talking about cornstarch. I think I've seen some bamboo products as well. Like, where do you go to make these things? And is that a challenge when there's such a, the whole system is based on plastic, I feel like these days. So it's
Yeah.
like people know how to build a toothbrush out of anything else anymore.
So it's interesting, like in 2019, we tried to prototype our own like completely like plant-based recyclable toothbrush. And when we would go to these manufacturers that have like these extrusion devices, so the bristles are the hardest part because you have to like put all of the raw materials into this machine and it extrudes these bristles. And then at a microscopic level, they have to go in and tough the ends of it so that it's not like prickly on your gums and your teeth. So there's a whole process to making a toothbrush.
So it's complicated to make a soft toothbrush, is what
It really is. And so back in 2019, 2020, when we would go to these manufacturers, we wound up actually breaking their machines because they weren't used to taking cornstarch based material resins and then like pumping it through these things. So we had to like pay for the extra tooling and all of this stuff. These days, actually, even like, 5 or 6 years later, these manufacturers are seeing the demand from consumers and also companies for more sustainable products. So they're actually coming up with their own tooling to be able to do. So I just have to go in and say, hey, I want a cornstarch based bristle and I want it to be pink and blue, and they can do it. Whereas like before I had to fork out thousands of dollars to get them the tooling to be able to do it. So I would say like, it's working, Steve. Like, the consumers asking for more sustainable products is actually translating to the manufacturers investing in tooling and technology that actually brings this stuff about in truly a more economical way. So it's working.
I'm curious, you're a woman-owned business. As a woman entrepreneur, this is a market that is pretty challenging. Do you see any kind of dynamics there that benefit you or that you struggle with?
So it's interesting. Like, I feel like the dental and the oral care industry is sort of following the beauty industry because a lot of the technology and innovation and sustainability has been coming from the beauty industry because, that's just like, it's just massive. And so that industry is sort of forced to kind of come to terms with the waste and the products that they're producing. And so we get the benefit of sort of like following on their coattails. And that industry is majority women. So, on the entrepreneurship side for consumer packaged goods over there, I find that people have been receiving female entrepreneurs very well. And so I get to benefit from that. So any kind of like grants or pitch competitions have been mostly flooded with women. And even on the funding side of things, like we're a bootstrap company, so I can't say specifically when we go raise money, this happens or this happened before because we haven't done it. But I will say that I have seen much more encouraging data about women receiving more funding and more support just from different organizations because of the challenges that they've had in the past. I would also say, though, the difference between I think men and women is that I think women tend to be scrappier. Like
Yeah.
we figure out how to make dinner when you have very few ingredients in the kitchen and you just have a half a box of mac and cheese and maybe some frozen broccoli, and you come up with a meal, and so I feel like women are very good at being, I'm not saying men are not, but I find that sort of like hunkering down, being scrappy. And then I think women are also very good at asking for help when we feel distressed, when we have a question. Like I think women are very good about saying, hey, this is what's going on. Can somebody help me? And I think women are also very good about lending that help. So I think being a female entrepreneur hasn't been easy, but certainly I feel so encouraged about the support and the sort of the love and and just people also purchasing, women owned products. Like we're women business certified nationally. And when people see that logo on our products and they see the logo on our website, we definitely get some high fives. So I think it's never been a better time to be a female entrepreneur, to be honest.
That's great to hear. I write a lot about balance, and I've been exploring things like the medicine wheel in my life, the mind, body, spirit, heart. You once said that your best ideas come when you allow space to think. Do you have kind of a special way that you protect your creativity, or a little space you go to, or any practice or ritual that helps you gain balance so that you can come up with all these great ideas?
Yeah, that's really a great question. I think in our society, people honor being busy and doing a lot of things. I actually read a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a very famous Buddhist monk um, out of Vietnam, and he said he's passed away now, but he said like when you're sick or when you are not well, you need to rest. And he said a deer in the woods, but if a deer gets injured, if an animal gets injured in the wild, it doesn't start going, running around and trying to do more things, trying to hunt more. It actually just lays down. It just lays down where it is, and it knows the body can heal itself. And I think about that in entrepreneurship as when we're busy and we're trying to do a lot of things, we're running about, but are we giving our bodies and our minds enough rest to invite that creativity, to grow ourselves, to learn more, and to grow our businesses? Are we doing that? And I see so many entrepreneurs that are more burnt out, and it's almost like a badge of honor. Oh my God, I'm so burnt out. And everyone's take these vitamins, see my therapist, go on this retreat. And like, yeah, those things I think can help. However, I think it really is just sitting with yourself. Honestly, when you're burnt out, it's going to your cabin in the woods. It's whatever how you do, and it's different for everyone, right? Whatever that thing is. For me, it's just driving in my car with the sound off. I
I
mean,
love that.
that's probably what lunatics do, to be honest. Like, wow, that's
No, it's what mothers of 3 boys
yeah,
do to get
yeah.
away.
Silence. Silence. I just need silence. I need people not saying mom every 5 minutes. So for me, it's just getting in the car, taking a long drive to see friends, to go pick up a package, taking the long way, and just being without my devices and marinating in my thoughts. And that's really the name of the company, the idea for the business, or tagline, everything. All my best ideas have honestly have come from this quote unquote rest
Yeah.
and this peacefulness and this silence that I have given myself. And sometimes I just force it on myself. Sometimes I forget to do it, but honestly, when I never have any regrets. Whenever I go on these long drives, I really am able to come up with better things for not just for my business, but also for myself.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, no, I've heard, the shower, a long hike, but I love the idea of getting in the car and driving and not having anything on the radio. It's interesting. For me, silence can be challenging. I've always worked around trying to be more comfortable in silence. And I used to always have the TV on if I was home alone, or I listen to a podcast when I'm on a hike. But now I have appreciated it. I mean, certainly when I'm up at the cabin, it's pretty quiet and there's a lot of silence. But that somehow feels differently for me than if I'm in my own house. Like if I'm here in town, the silence is almost too much for me. So, but I love that you get out there and get a long drive in. It's letting the back side of your brain there kind of marinate on ideas. And entrepreneurship often amplifies both the best things about us and the worst things about us. And you've already touched on this a little bit, but I'm curious what you've learned from being an entrepreneur about yourself.
Yeah, I would say it does amplify everything about yourself and your quirks, your personality. I would say that the positive things that I've learned about myself is being scrappy, listening to consumers, piecing together data from the market. If someone tells me some feedback from my product, or then someone else tells me something else, like being able to piece those things together to come up with like solutions, like, oh, aha, like this is what this person is telling me about something that's a problem or a pain for them. And this is perhaps a way that I can solve for it, given these data points that are sort of, coming my way. And being able to be creative and having the confidence that the things that I create, people really like it and they use it. So I find that those are some of the positive things. I think that the negative things all come out to, like, I am just wildly impatient. I'm just a very impatient person. Like, I hate waiting in lines. With my kids, I'm like, go, go, go. Come on, what are you guys just doing around about? So it's definitely something that I'm working on. And in the business, it translates to me being impatient about how slowly certain things are going. Like,
Yeah.
we developed a kids product, and for better or for worse, like it hasn't launched yet. And I'm just like, oh, I'm like, it kills me inside because I know that it's going to be a great product, but we stumble on things that kind of knock us back, and 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of thing. And sometimes it's, 3 steps back, and in it, understanding myself is, I think, a great way to just stop, look at what's the bigger picture, and say, hey, these things are going well. These things may not be going well, but it's okay. Like, it's not the end of the world if I don't launch this product tomorrow, if we don't launch this newsletter tomorrow. But it kills me inside to have to reason with myself about those things. But luckily I have some people around me on my team who really give me some balance. And sometimes when they see me getting too impatient, they're like, hey, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. We don't launch this email subscription thing tomorrow. Like, you can do it next week and it'll still be okay. So just having some good people around you to keep you grounded has worked for me.
That's awesome. We are coming up on the holidays, and you and I have been chatting a little bit before today's podcast to talk about what are some of the things that we might be able to buy our family members and friends that are more sustainable, more responsible. And, for me, it's always like, what goes in that stocking? Because we have a big tradition in our house that most of the things that go in your stocking are things that you need every day, or the shampoos, the soap, maybe you get a little something special, but it's always like your go-to morning routine and evening routine. And I probably just buy a bunch of crap. I know that half the time I open up a drawer and there's 30 chapsticks in there because we buy 5 chapsticks that go in every stocking every year. So I'm contributing to the trash and the waste. But what do you recommend this holiday season that folks could put in a stocking that's more sustainable, but still adds value?
Yeah, I love this. I also like you, Steve, I love a practical gift, because sometimes it's fun to get a gift card, but like if it's something that they can use daily or weekly, that's something that I always is my go-to. And sometimes I have sometimes I give like weird gifts, but like people use them. So
Absolutely.
there's 5 things. When you ask me this question, there's 5 things that I personally have purchased for my friends and family that are sustainable. And these are some of the things I actually use in my home too. So The first thing, and I give this to almost everybody, and people laugh at it, but they totally use it, is the wool dryer balls. So if you do a lot of laundry like we do at our house, we use, when you throw your wet clothes into the dryer, we usually use these like dryer sheets, which work great. But we've switched over to these wool dryer balls. They just look like giant little white balls that are made out of sheep's wool. And to add some to zhuzh it up a little bit, we also add a little essential oil to make it smell nice. So this is what I give my friends and family. I give them the wool dryer balls. So they usually come in like a pack of 4 or 6. The key is for a small load you use 4, and for big loads you use 6 to 8. And then what I do is I just drop some essential oils onto the dryer balls before we start tumbling. It helps lift the clothes to dry it better, and then the essential oils just make it smell nice. So I always give lavender essential oil.
Yeah, what do you use?
We use a little bit of lemon, which gives it just a little like clean scent to it, and then sometimes a little orange oil. So maybe you can make it. Some people use patchouli, other scents, whatever like floats your boat. But I'm trying to calm my kids down usually, so the lavender is where it's at. So that's one gift that I give, and those dryer balls, they last forever. So
I love it. How big are they? Are they like
they're
fist
about the
size?
size, they're like the size of a softball.
Okay,
Yeah, so
awesome.
not too crazy. The other thing I love to give is like those chefs cutting boards. They're made of, sometimes they're made out of bamboo. They're great because they're like a very high quality. Usually they don't have any plastics in them, and they wash really well. They don't hold any odor, so you can chop everything from onions to like apples on them, and the kids won't taste the taste of the onions on the apple. So I really love those. They're like, if you pay for like a nice quality one, they literally last forever. And I always add the mineral oil to keep it seasoned
Yeah.
and make sure that people know how to use that. So I think that's a really great gift. It takes the microplastics and the plastics out of the kitchen.
I love that. Yeah, I've actually slowly moving away from any plastic cutting boards. And like you said, as you use them, the plastic starts flaking off. They warp in the dishwasher if you put
Yeah.
them in the dishwasher. And we actually learned this at the butcher shop. Plastic cutting boards can get just as much bacteria in them as wood. And
Yeah.
so if you use them regularly, it gets embedded in all those nooks and crannies. So it's not any cleaner.
Yeah.
And I have so many wood cutting boards. I'm looking down here. I'm in my kitchen. I'm like, down here, I have a drawer of all my cutting boards. I know that I've had cutting boards for 20 years and I use them every night. And when they are finally cracked, or some of ours are so bowed out from just chopping, and it's like almost a bowl, I just use them out in the garage. I put them on top of my tool chest out in the garage, and then I can work on that surface and not worry about nicking or scratching or chipping something else. It's just like a great work surface if you no longer need it in the kitchen.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a great tip too.
What's the next one?
Yeah, so another one that I really love, if you've got some ladies in your family, there's a brand called Axiology, and they have almost zero packaging for any of their products. They've got this great product that's called Lip to Lid, and it comes in this cute little box, and there's different colors, and it's literally a makeup that you can use on your lips, on your cheeks, and for eyeshadow. And it comes in just wrapped in paper, and I literally, this goes in my gift guide for Elims every single year because of the sustainability element, and the products are really good. It's a women-owned company, and they work really hard at trying to remove a lot of the packaging from cosmetics, and they have a bunch of other different products too, but the lip to lid product is something that I give to my girlfriends too. It's great.
Well, I got lots of ladies in my house, so
Yeah,
that's
so you can. That's a great, and it's perfect size to put in the stocking. Another product that I really like is a bit more practical. So I love Patagonia. I think their business ethos is definitely business goals for us. They have a couple like of these packable duffel bags that are so great for travel. So I've gifted this to my brother and his wife. I give this to past coworkers. And it's just great because these little duffel bags just zip up, and you just throw them into your suitcase. If you're going on a trip and you got excess stuff, you can check that in too. So that's a great practical gift that I think a lot of people overlook.
somehow whenever we travel, we come back with twice as much stuff. And nowadays they're charging for every bag, but it's nice not to have to bring extra luggage on the way there. If you know you're going to come with stuff. We're luckily staying home for the holidays this year, but that's not always the case. So I love that idea.
Yeah, so just like a packable duffel is great. Just to offload whatever you need when you're traveling. We use them all the time. I take them everywhere with us. And the last thing is, just a product out of our own product line. We have a teeth whitening mask that's more sustainable. So if you ever use like Crest white strips, they're like a plastic sachet, and then there's like a plastic film, and then there's a plastic film on that has the active ingredients. You stick it on your teeth for 15 minutes and you take it off. So we looked at that product and we said, can we make this product just as effective to whiten your teeth, but can we get rid of all this plastic, honestly? And so what we created was a dissolvable whitening strip. So you take it out of the little, we've got this little medical grade sachet, you open that, and then you just stick it on your teeth, and it just dissolves in seconds. And then you just go about your day. Like you could be on this podcast wearing it and no one would know because it's invisible. So it still whitens your teeth just the way the generic white strips do, but without all of the plastic. And the bonus is that because we choose all natural ingredients and ingredients that you can pronounce, it actually is healthier for you, and it causes no sensitivity. So we did some clinical studies with a dental school in the UK, and it came back that we had absolutely no change to the enamel of the teeth, but it still whitened the teeth significantly. So that's sort of the benefit. It's just like it's the 1-2 punch. It's got a little
Yeah.
bit of everything: the sustainability, the effectiveness, and also no sensitivity on your teeth.
No, that's great because that's the reason why I've never whitened my teeth. I did it once and I had such a sensitive reaction.
Yeah.
And it was like every time I ate anything all day long. And that's like that fingernails on a chalkboard
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
for me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It is the hardest thing to go through. So is there like a secret ingredient, or can you share like what it is that's different? Because what are the normal products? Are you using like bleach or something like that?
Well, I mean, the only thing that will whiten your teeth is bleach. So it's still hydrogen peroxide, which
Okay.
is what the conventional products use. It's just, I don't even know what is in those other products. Like, you can't pronounce it. It's like something with a bunch of numbers and dashes on the end of it. For us, we use mostly essential oils. So it's using the same technology that you've seen in like those Listerine fresh breath strips that dissolve on your mouth. We
Sure.
just kind of beefed it up a little bit and added the hydrogen peroxide to it. So the less ingredients, actually, the better. And so that's what creates a product that actually works without any negative effects.
I love it. Well, these are great suggestions, and I'm actually going to be sharing some more in this week's newsletter. So if you're listening to this podcast, when it comes out on the Saturday, I'll have all of Belinda's ideas and several more of my own put together just in time for holiday shopping. Well, let's talk about food for a minute because I'm fascinated by Burmese food. I love it, and I'm really curious. I've only had it a couple of times, and I've never had the pleasure of having it with you. But what was your childhood food experience like, and what makes Burmese food so special?
Well, I think Burmese food is special because it's pretty rare. I think you see a lot of Chinese restaurants, Thai restaurants, Japanese restaurants, but Burmese food, just because of the political nature of that country, a lot of people haven't been able to leave. And so it's very rare to see a Burmese restaurant in most cities. You see it in bigger cities like San Francisco, New York, LA, but it's hard to come by when you're traveling around the US. I think I love Burmese food because it's a combination of sort of Indian food, Chinese food, and Thai food. And so I feel like all the best elements of those different cuisines come together in Burmese food. So we got the curries, like the chicken curries, or like a bit more savory. There's a bit more like what my mom calls gravy in it, so that you could put it on rice and it mixes with the rice super nicely, but not, it doesn't have a lot of like sort of like the bold flavors that like maybe Thai food would have. And my favorite dish, there's two. One is called Ono Kaswe. Ono means coconut, and then kaswe means noodles. So ono kaswe, it's a coconut milk based noodle soup, and it's with chicken and it's so delicious. It's definitely something that in Burmese culture we eat for like lunch or dinner. Very savory, very soothing. The other dish that I love is called mohinga. And mohinga means like fish noodle soup. And interestingly, Burmese people eat it for breakfast. So you
Right.
can't find it after, lunch. If you go to Burma, you can't find anyone serving this after breakfast. So it's basically a fish-based broth. It's a very thick fish-based broth with noodles in it, and it's so delicious. And the best thing about like the noodle soups is that you can make it however you want. They give you all of these different toppings. So you can make it like more spicy, you can make it more tangy, you can make it more savory by adding fish sauce. So it's like something that everyone enjoys because you can make it your own. So those are my two favorite dishes. If you go to a Burmese restaurant, I highly recommend that you order one of these two, the onokosware or the mohinga. So good.
And is there a good Burmese restaurant here in the Southern California area?
There's a few actually by you, Steve, in like around Monterey Park, El Monte area. That's sort of like where most of the Burmese folks live. In LA proper, there's a place called Jasmine. It's in Culver City, sort of on the way to LAX. And it's a market, but they serve Burmese food, and that's usually where I go around LA.
All right, road trip.
Yeah.
We can finally get together in person.
Yeah. Amazing.
What do you get a chance to cook much at home with 3 kids, a business to run, and everything else on your plate?
Honestly, I take a page out of Steve Sabaker's, motto to life, and I do cook. I cook quite a bit. I cook most of the day. Sometimes on weekends, I don't cook just to give myself a break, but I do love cooking everything from scratch. So, I make my own chicken broth from scratch. I make all my pasta sauces from scratch. Really just inspired by you for so long to make things that are both delicious, simple. I remember your cooking, Steve, that you don't use a lot of crazy ingredients. You actually use very simple, high quality ingredients, and that's what I try to do. So we have a mix of at home I make a mix of like Chinese food and more Western cuisines like, pastas and steaks and things like that. And I try to make as much of it from literally from scratch. And so my kids get sort of both like the cultural experience, but also the broader American cuisine. And the thing I love about that is my kids are like, they're really like, they have sophisticated palates now. When we go out and they taste something that is not high quality, they taste it, they're like, ooh, this broth doesn't taste very rich. It must be like made from a concentrate
Yeah.
instead of like boiling the chicken. So I love that because honestly, my kids, they get 3 boys. They don't ask for a lot. They don't care what they wear. They don't care about a lot of things. They really just care about food and video games, and at least one of those things I can control. So I do cook a lot at home, and one of the things that I've tried to do a lot is actually like you said, taking a lot of the plastic out of my kitchen as
Yeah.
well. So at one point, my son said, Mom, you've gone too far because I literally Tupperware, Ziploc bags, they're all gone. Like in my house, there's glass Tupperware. We use as I said, the wooden or the metal cutting boards. We've gotten rid of all the plastic plates and utensils. We only use glass, and we break a bunch of stuff at home. Don't get me wrong. Like that stuff breaks all the time, but I feel like that's a good investment into health. Like I'm just not sure how these microplastics going to translate into our bodies over many years. And I just want to make sure that they're at least out of my kitchen.
When you think about it, we throw out plasticware all the time. We don't think about it because it feels more disposable. Whereas if you break a glass, I mean, I've got glass containers from when my wife and I got married, 25 years ago. So I feel like I don't have any plastic that's that old. It got thrown away a long time ago. And so I do think even the durability of it, it may feel like, oh, it could be dangerous or, yeah, some of it's going to break, especially with kids. But I think in the long run, we're going to be holding on to those things longer and use them more effectively. I'm curious because the one thing I can't get rid of in my house that I'm like addicted to are the deli containers. We use these in cooking all the time, and we use them at the butcher shop all the time. They nest well. I use them to freeze my broth, and I know when I'm putting hot items in there. They say they're BPA free, but who knows? And certainly the microplastics are still a concern. Do you have anything you use at home when you freeze things do you freeze in glass, or do you
Oh
use
yeah, I
something
do
else?
freeze in glass. Liquid is tough, especially, broth.
Yeah,
Soups,
that's
they're
the hard one because
often
it expands, right?
it
It's
does.
like,
It does. So the key is to make sure that you cool it down completely in the glass container with the lid open.
yeah,
So there's no added condensation. I mean, it's a pain in the butt. I know it, but like this is what we have to do. So I cool it down completely on the counter. When it's room temperature, I close the lid and I put it in the fridge to cool it down even more. And then I pop it into the freezer. So you have to use tempered glass. You can't
yeah.
use just the mason jar. I learned that the hard way because the broken broth and broth that I had to throw away. Can't use the mason jar. Mason jars are awesome for the fridge, but not for the freezer. So I've had some success doing that. I've also had some success with the silicone bags.
Yeah.
So we use like stashers, which are great, and they last forever. So I'll pour, and the stashers are nice because they flatten, right? So you don't have these bulky containers. So I use a lot of these silicone bags or silicone containers when it goes into the freezer, and that's sort of the best that I can do. We have some of these metal containers, like mixing bowls that nest, and so I've used those. They just take up a lot of space in the freezer, especially when you've got like a lot of things in the freezer. They take up a lot of space, so those are tough. But
I
sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
I think I see a business opportunity here. We
Yeah,
got to come
there
up
you
with
go.
some
Freeze,
broth freezer bags of some
raw
kind that are
freezer
sustainable.
bags. Yeah, I mean, I cook from scratch a lot of things. You want to save every little bit of it because a lot has gone into it. So I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm eager to try some of your cooking. So one of these days we'll have to get together, and you can show me some of the basics in Burmese food because
Absolutely, I would love that.
well, I asked this question of a lot of my guests, and I'm curious what your answer is going to be. I know right now, the season of giving and the season ahead of us, the holiday season, is going to be probably pretty busy for you guys over at Elims.
Yeah.
What is your favorite season, and what does it mean to you?
My favorite season is actually this season, this sort of like Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, time of year. For us, like I said, I didn't grow up with a lot, and so the only time we got presents was really, around Christmas. And we're not Christian, and we don't celebrate that in that way, but we do celebrate the coming together and just giving gifts, like thinking about the other person, like what would this person like, and using your piggy bank to be able to purchase that stuff for folks. And right now, for the even though it's a busy time for the business, it's actually really busy time for my husband too, because he's with his dental practice. Everyone's trying to use up their dental insurance before the end of the year, so it's a really
Sure.
challenging time for us. But it's just there's like a sort of like a romance about the Christmas time, and like just like the lights going up just like kind of hits a part of your heart that doesn't really get activated most of the year. And thinking about others, about like the gift giving, donating our time, donating our things. I really just love just the coming together of this time of year. And I think like it's less about the gifts really. It's really just about like the families and the friends coming together. So it's just a beautiful time of year.
I couldn't agree more. Do you have a favorite holiday movie?
I love Love Actually. It's so inappropriate for my kids. I mean, we try to watch even the edited, like TV edit version, and it's like so inappropriate. But the message of this movie is it's just so sweet, like the different stories coming together. So there's that one, and my kids love Elf.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a go-to in our house.
it's a go-to. Yeah, it's so sweet.
Well, Belinda, it's been great to chat with you today. Lots of great ideas for the holidays and some inspiring messages from a successful woman entrepreneur. I really have appreciated you taking the time with me today, and I can't wait for you to come back.
All right, thank you so much for having me, Steve. It's been such a pleasure.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
And that wraps up another episode of Enlightened Omnivore. A special thanks to all my subscribers for listening in this week. You can all read more about everything omnivorous on my weekly Substack newsletter found at enlightenedomnivore.substack.com. We continue to uncover the stories behind our food and the new ways we can live sustainably together. Thank you for tuning in. This is Steve Sabaker reminding you to savor every bite and eat mindfully. Until next time, keep it balanced and stay enlightened. This is Enlightened Omnivore, everything in moderation.